Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now let's dive into the story. In the bustling city of New York, there was an elegant restaurant where the rich and powerful dined, their voices blending with the soft hum of conversation. The lighting was warm, casting a cozy glow over the fine china and expensive wine glasses. But for Emma Brooks, who stood by the door, scanning the room nervously, this place felt like a world she did not belong to. Her second-hand dress clung to her body in all the wrong places, and her scuffed shoes clicked loudly against the polished floors as she walked toward her table. She had promised her best friend, Jenny, that she would go through with the blind date, but her heart was pounding as she glanced at the reflection in the window. It was impossible to shake off the feeling that she didn't belong here, in this perfect world of wealth and sophistication. Emma took a deep breath, muttering to herself, Table 7, Table 7, as she made her way to the back of the restaurant. Her nerves threatened to overtake her as she reached the table where a man sat alone, engrossed in his phone. He was dressed sharply, with neatly styled dark hair and a commanding presence that only made her anxiety grow. "You must be Kevin," she said, forcing a smile, her hands trembling as she held out her hand. The man looked up, blinking in surprise. For a brief moment, he seemed caught off guard, unsure of what to say. Hi Emma," he finally replied, still slightly confused. Emma, misreading his hesitation as shyness, slid into the seat across from him. She was rambling now, trying to fill the awkward silence. "I know this is awkward. Blind dates are weird, right? Jenny told me you might be a little quiet, so don't worry. I can talk enough for both of us." The man, Liam Parker, sat back in his chair, trying to make sense of the situation. He had expected his blind date to be someone polished, someone who knew the right things to say. But Emma, she was different. She seemed honest, real, even vulnerable. Something about her was intriguing, and for reasons he couldn't quite explain, he found himself playing along. "Right, blind dates are something else," he said with a slight smile. Emma chuckled nervously, taking a sip of water, her mind racing with thoughts of what to say next. "Tell me about yourself," she said, her voice slightly shaky. "I'm a waitress. It's not glamorous, but it pays the bills. Well, most of them anyway," she added with a nervous laugh. "What do you do?" she asked, eager to steer the conversation away from her own awkwardness. Liam hesitated, his eyes flicking down to his phone before looking back at her. "I work in tech," he replied briefly, his tone neutral. "Tech? That's cool," Emma responded, her voice brightening, though her mind was still spinning. "Like coding in apps? I'm terrible with computers, to be honest." Liam smiled at her honesty. "Something like that," he said, leaning back in his chair. He studied her for a moment, intrigued by her straightforwardness and the way she wasn't trying to impress him or act like someone she wasn't. It was refreshing, in a way he hadn't expected. For the next few minutes, the conversation flowed easily. Emma shared stories from her shifts at the diner, her struggles to pay rent, and her dream of one day opening an art studio. She was animated, passionate, and despite the situation being far from ideal, Liam found himself laughing more than he had in ages. She wasn't like the polished, perfect women he usually encountered. She was real. She was someone who spoke from the heart, and that, in a strange way, made her even more captivating. But just as the conversation seemed to settle into a comfortable rhythm, Emma's phone buzzed. Her heart sank as she read the text message. "Hey Emma, where are you?" "I'm at table 7. Looking forward to meeting you, Kevin." Emma looked up from her phone, her face turning crimson with embarrassment. "Oh my God," she muttered, standing up quickly. "I'm so sorry. I sat at the wrong table. I thought you were Kevin." Liam's smile faltered, but he stood up as well. "It's okay, really," he said, his voice soft. But Emma was already grabbing her coat, her face flushed with embarrassment as she practically bolted out the door, leaving Liam standing there, a strange feeling of regret settling in his chest. He hadn't expected this to happen, but now he couldn't shake the thought of what had just occurred. He wondered if he would ever see her again, and, for some reason, he realized that he really hoped he would. "Now, let's return to the story of Emma Brooks. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now let's dive into the story. In the heart of New York, there was a chic restaurant, a place where the rich and powerful dined, surrounded by the soft hum of conversation. The lighting was warm, casting a golden glow over the polished glassware and fine china. But Emma Brooks, standing nervously by the door, couldn't shake the feeling that she didn't belong here. Her second-hand dress felt too simple, and her worn shoes clicked loudly against the marble floors as she made her way toward her table. She had promised her best friend, Jenny, that she would go through with the blind date, but Emma's nerves were getting the best of her. She glanced at her reflection in the window, wondering if she should turn around and leave. She took a deep breath, muttering to herself, "Table 7, Table 7. Her heart was racing as she moved toward the back of the restaurant. There, a man sat alone at a table, absorbed in his phone. He was sharply dressed, with neat dark hair and a calm, composed demeanor that only made Emma's anxiety grow. She approached the table and, with a shaky smile, said, "You must be Kevin." The man looked up, blinking in surprise. For a moment, he seemed confused, unsure of how to respond. Hi Emma," he finally said, still processing. Emma, misinterpreting his hesitation as shyness, slid into the seat across from him. "I know this is awkward. Blind dates are always a little strange, right? Jenny told me you might be quiet, so don't worry, I can do most of the talking," she said, trying to fill the uncomfortable silence. Liam Parker leaned back in his chair, trying to make sense of the situation. He had expected someone polished and poised, but Emma, she was different. Her vulnerability was refreshing. There was something real about her, and, for reasons he couldn't quite explain, he decided to let it play out. "Right, blind dates are something else," he said, offering a faint smile. Emma laughed nervously, taking a sip of water. "Tell me about yourself," she said, eager to change the topic. "I'm a waitress. It's not glamorous, but it pays the bills. Well, most of them anyway." She smiled awkwardly. "What about you? What do you do?" Liam hesitated before answering, his eyes briefly flicking to his phone. "I work in tech," he replied, his tone as neutral as possible. "Tech? That's cool," Emma said brightly. "Like coding or apps? I'm terrible with computers, to be honest." Liam's smile widened, amused by her honesty. "Something like that," he said, leaning back in his chair, studying her with growing interest. Her straightforwardness was intriguing, and unlike the polished women he was used to, Emma felt real. The conversation continued effortlessly. Emma shared stories about her job, her struggles to make ends meet, and her dream of one day opening an art studio. She was animated, passionate, and Liam found himself laughing more than he had in ages. She wasn't like anyone he had ever met. She was genuine. She didn't try to hide her imperfections, and that made her all the more captivating. But just as the conversation began to feel comfortable, Emma's phone buzzed. She read the message, and her face immediately flushed with embarrassment. "Oh my God," she whispered, looking up at Liam. "I'm so sorry, I sat at the wrong table. I thought you were Kevin." Liam's smile faltered, but he stood up as well, trying to ease the tension. "It's okay, really." But before he could say more, Emma was already grabbing her coat, her face red with embarrassment. She bolted for the door, leaving Liam standing there, feeling an odd mix of regret and curiosity. He hadn't expected this to happen, but now he couldn't stop wondering if he'd ever see her again. Let's return to Emma's story. After Emma bolted out of the restaurant, she couldn't help but curse herself. She hadn't even apologized properly to the man she had mistakenly thought was Kevin. Her heart was still racing as she hurried out onto the busy streets of New York. She kept her head down, hoping no one would notice her. She had never felt more out of place in her life. She had promised Jenny that she would give this blind date a try, but this was not what she had imagined. The truth was, her nerves always got the best of her, and now she had just made a complete fool of herself. Emma reached for her phone, her fingers shaking as she typed a quick message to Jenny. "I messed up. Sat at the wrong table. It's so embarrassing. I'm on my way home." She hit send, not bothering to look back at the restaurant. As she walked through the chilly evening air, she couldn't shake the image of the man, Liam Parker. She remembered now. The confusion in his eyes had quickly turned to a gentle, understanding smile, and that smile lingered in her mind. She knew she should just forget about it and move on, but something about that interaction felt different. He hadn't judged her, hadn't treated her like she didn't belong. He had just let her be herself, awkward and nervous, without making her feel out of place. Back at his penthouse, Liam Parker sat by his floor-to-ceiling windows, staring out at the twinkling lights of the city. The evening had been a whirlwind. He was supposed to be meeting with a business associate, but that had fallen through when the man canceled at the last minute. He hadn't expected much from the blind date, but meeting Emma, he couldn't stop thinking about it. Her raw honesty, her vulnerability, it had struck him in a way no other woman had. There was something refreshing about her, something genuine. He had wanted to correct her when she sat at the wrong table, but something had stopped him. There was a part of him that didn't want the moment to end. He stared at his phone, wondering if he should text her. But he wasn't sure what to say. He didn't even know if she would want to hear from him. He wasn't used to feeling this way. He had always been in control of his emotions, his life, but Emma had caught him off guard. Just the thought of her brought a strange warmth to his chest. The next day, Emma was at her small apartment, scrolling through job listings on her phone, feeling like she was stuck in a cycle she couldn't escape. The past few months had been rough. Working double shifts as a waitress, barely making enough to pay rent, and trying to hold on to her dream of becoming an artist, it was exhausting. She didn't even know how she had managed to keep it all together. The moment she had stepped out of that restaurant, her mind had gone into overdrive. What was she doing with her life? Was this all she was going to amount to? A second-hand dress, a scuffed pair of shoes, a waitress with a dream that was slipping further and further away. Her phone buzzed, interrupting her thoughts. It was a message from Jenny. Don't worry about last night. Everyone makes mistakes. Besides, he was probably just as nervous as you were. Emma smiled slightly at Jenny's encouraging words, but the doubt in her mind remained. She couldn't stop replaying the evening in her head, wondering if she had made a real connection with Liam, or if it was just her imagination. She set her phone down and let out a long sigh, feeling like she was drowning in uncertainty. Then, as if on cue, her phone buzzed again. This time it was an unknown number. Emma hesitated before opening the message. It read, "Hi Emma, this is Liam Parker. I think you might have accidentally sat at the wrong table last night. I wanted to reach out and apologize for not correcting you sooner. I also wanted to see if you'd like to meet up for coffee sometime. No pressure, just a chance to get to know each other better. Let me know." Emma stared at the message, her heart racing. Was this really happening? Was Liam actually reaching out to her? She sat there for a moment, unsure of how to respond. Her mind was a whirlwind of thoughts. What did he mean by get to know each other better? Was he just being polite? Or did he really want to see her again? She had no idea what to think. But after a long moment of hesitation, she finally typed back, "I would like that. Coffee sounds nice." The moment she sent the message, Emma felt a rush of excitement and fear all at once. She had no idea where this would lead, but for the first time in a long time, she felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe, just maybe, this could be the start of something new. Something that wasn't defined by the limitations she had placed on herself. Maybe it was time to take a chance. Let's see where this goes. The following Saturday morning, Emma stood in front of her small kitchen window, her fingers nervously playing with the hem of her sleeve. The aroma of coffee filled the air, but it was doing little to calm her nerves. She had agreed to meet Liam for coffee, and while part of her was excited, the other part couldn't stop doubting herself. She had never been in a situation like this, meeting a man she had barely spoken to and already feeling a connection, even though it all started with a simple mistake. The reality of it all was still sinking in. Why was he reaching out to her? What did he see in someone like her? She shook her head, trying to silence the questions in her mind. She had no answer. She had no idea why Liam had chosen to contact her, but there was a part of her that couldn't help but feel drawn to him. She grabbed her purse and checked the time. It was almost noon. They had agreed to meet at a small, cozy cafe in the city, and she didn't want to be late. When she arrived, the cafe was quieter than she expected for a Saturday. The soft clink of coffee cups and the hum of low conversation filled the space. Emma walked to the back, where she saw Liam sitting at a corner table by the window. He looked just as she remembered, polished and professional, his dark hair neatly combed, a serious expression on his face that softened when he saw her. "Hi, Emma," Liam said, standing up as she approached. He smiled, his expression warmer than the last time they met. "Hey," Emma replied, smiling nervously. "I hope I didn't keep you waiting too long." Liam shook his head, gesturing to the chair across from him. "No, not at all. I'm glad you could make it." She sat down, feeling a bit out of place, but Liam's presence had a way of calming her. He wasn't like the men she usually met. He didn't try to impress her or act like he was above her. There was a quiet confidence about him, something that put her at ease despite her nerves. After they ordered their drinks, the conversation started off slow, with small talk about work, the weather, and the usual pleasantries. But Emma could sense that both of them were trying to feel each other out, to see if this could actually go somewhere. She wasn't sure how to move past the awkwardness of their initial meeting, but as the minutes passed, she found herself laughing at his jokes, genuinely enjoying the time they spent together. "So, what made you want to reach out to me?" Emma asked, her curiosity getting the best of her. She had been wondering this ever since he texted her the day before. Liam looked thoughtful for a moment before answering. "To be honest, I wasn't sure what I expected after that mix-up. I just thought it was a little strange that we had such an easy conversation. I've been to plenty of blind dates, and they're usually pretty stiff. But with you, it just felt different. I wanted to see if we could talk more, without the awkwardness of a first meeting." Emma felt a warmth spread through her chest at his words. It was a relief to hear that he didn't think she was just another girl he'd forget about in a day or two. There was something about the way he spoke, so genuine, so open, that made her believe him. "I'm glad you did," she said softly, leaning back in her chair. "I wasn't sure if you'd even want to see me again after last night. I mean, I kind of ran out on you." She smiled sheepishly, her cheeks flushing slightly. Liam chuckled, shaking his head. "I wasn't bothered by it, Emma. Honestly, I get why you left. If I were in your shoes, I'd probably do the same thing." It was kind of an odd situation. For a moment, they both sat in silence, just drinking their coffee. Emma let out a soft sigh, feeling the weight of the tension from the night before slowly slip away. She hadn't realized how much she had been carrying with her, the pressure of feeling like she didn't belong, like she was always a step behind everyone else. But here, with Liam, it felt different. The conversation drifted to more personal topics. Liam told her about his work in tech, how he had built his own company from the ground up, and the challenges he had faced along the way. Emma listened intently, fascinated by his story. She shared her own dreams of opening an art studio, of creating something that could help others see the beauty in the world. For the first time in a long while, she felt like someone was really listening to her, like her dreams mattered. As the afternoon wore on, Emma realized that the awkwardness had melted away. She was no longer nervous or self-conscious. They were just two people talking, two people connecting in a way she hadn't expected. She hadn't expected this to happen, but as she looked across the table at Liam, she knew that this meeting was only the beginning. "I'm really glad we did this," she said, breaking the silence. "I wasn't sure where it would go, but I'm glad we gave it a shot." Liam smiled, his eyes meeting hers with an intensity that made her heart skip a beat. "Me too," he replied. "I think this is just the start of something interesting." As they stood to leave, Emma couldn't help but feel a sense of hope rise inside her. Maybe, just maybe, this wasn't just another random encounter. Maybe this was the start of something real. Let's see where this journey takes them. The days after their coffee date passed by quickly, and Emma found herself thinking about Liam more than she expected. It wasn't just his wealth or success that stood out to her. It was the way he listened, the way he didn't make her feel small or insignificant. She had been used to people looking down on her, but Liam was different. He saw her. He truly saw her. And for the first time in a long while, she felt like she could breathe, like maybe she didn't have to be afraid of her own dreams anymore. They kept in touch, exchanging texts throughout the week, and each message felt like a small bridge between them, growing stronger with every conversation. One afternoon, Liam called Emma out of the blue. "Hey, how about a surprise for you? There's an event tomorrow night, and I'd like you to be my guest." Emma was caught off guard, wondering what kind of event it could be. She didn't know much about Liam's world, only the bits and pieces he had shared with her. "What kind of event?" she asked hesitantly. Liam's voice on the other end was warm but mysterious. It's a charity gala. I'm hosting it, and I thought it'd be nice if you came with me. Emma's stomach flipped at the thought. A gala? She could hardly imagine herself in such an upscale setting, surrounded by the city's elite. Her immediate instinct was to say no, to find a way to excuse herself, but something in Liam's voice made her stop. I don't know, she said, her voice shaky. I'm not really used to events like that. I mean, I'm just a waitress. She could already hear her own insecurities creeping into her words. Liam's tone softened, as if he could sense her hesitation. Emma, it's not about where you come from. It's about who you are. I want you there. Please. His words were so genuine, so sincere, that she couldn't bring herself to refuse him. After a long pause, she finally said, Okay, I'll go. She could almost hear his smile through the phone. I'm looking forward to it, he said before hanging up. The next day, Emma found herself standing in front of her mirror, staring at the dress she had borrowed from a friend. It was a simple, elegant piece, nothing like the extravagant gown she had seen in movies, but it would have to do. She had spent the morning getting ready, even though she felt completely out of place. Her nerves were at an all-time high as she carefully applied her makeup, trying to make herself look presentable. She wasn't sure what she expected from tonight, but one thing was certain. This wasn't the world she was used to. She was used to the noise of the diner, the smell of coffee, and the hum of customers. She wasn't used to the world of high society, with its expensive champagne and tailored suits. When she arrived at the venue, the sheer scale of it took her breath away. The grand ballroom was filled with shimmering lights and crystal chandeliers that illuminated the perfectly arranged tables. The air was thick with the sound of elegant conversation and the soft clinking of glasses. It was everything she had imagined, and more. She felt like an outsider, someone who had accidentally wandered into a world she didn't belong in. But when Liam appeared, all of her anxieties seemed to melt away. He was dressed in a sharp black suit, his dark hair neatly styled, and his presence commanded the room. When he saw Emma, his expression softened, and he made his way toward her with a confident yet calm stride. You look amazing, Liam said as he reached her, his voice genuine. Emma felt a blush creep up her neck, and she awkwardly adjusted the strap of her dress, suddenly self-conscious. Thanks, she said, offering a small smile. She still didn't feel like she belonged, but Liam's reassuring presence helped ease her nerves. He led her into the heart of the gala, introducing her to a few people along the way. She tried to keep up with the conversations, but her mind kept wandering. The guests were all polished, perfect, and well-spoken. Emma felt like she was playing a part, trying to blend in. She couldn't help but feel out of place among them, like she was the only one who didn't belong. As the evening went on, Emma found herself standing off to the side, watching Liam as he worked the room, effortlessly moving between conversations. She could see the way people respected him, the way his presence commanded attention. It wasn't just his wealth that made him stand out. It was his confidence, his ability to connect with people. He wasn't just another billionaire. He was someone who genuinely cared about those around him. At one point, Liam returned to her side, sensing her discomfort. You okay? He asked softly, his gaze meeting hers with an understanding expression. Emma nodded, but the truth was, she wasn't sure. She wasn't sure about anything. She had always kept to herself, avoided situations like this, and now she felt lost in a sea of people who didn't even notice her. I'm fine, she said, forcing a smile. Just a little overwhelmed, I guess. Liam's smile softened, and he took her hand gently. If it gets too much, we can leave, he offered. His kindness was a balm to her nerves, and for a moment, Emma thought that maybe this evening, despite her discomfort, was worth it. But then as the night wore on, she began to feel something shift within her. She was no longer just the nervous waitress trying to fit in. As she glanced around the room, she realized something. It wasn't the people or the environment that made her feel out of place. It was her own fear. Her fear of not being enough, of not belonging. And slowly, with Liam by her side, she started to let go of that fear. By the end of the night, Emma didn't feel like the same person who had walked into that ballroom. She wasn't completely comfortable yet, but she could see the possibility. The possibility of a future where she didn't have to hide, where she could finally be herself without shame. As Liam took her hand and led her toward the exit, he leaned in slightly, his voice low. I'm glad you came. And Emma, for the first time in a long time, realized that maybe she had been wrong all along. Maybe, just maybe, she was starting to find her place in this world. Let's see what happens next. The following week, Emma found herself reflecting on the night of the gala. The feeling of walking in those upscale circles, of standing beside Liam as he effortlessly navigated through conversations with important guests, was still fresh in her mind. She had thought she would feel completely out of place, but something had shifted within her that night. She had learned that, despite her fears, she belonged just as much as anyone else. Liam had shown her that she didn't need to apologize for who she was, even in a world that seemed so far removed from her reality. And for that, she felt a quiet gratitude. But the truth was, Emma still had questions. Where was this connection with Liam heading? Was this just another fleeting moment in her life? Or could it be something real? On a Thursday afternoon, as the sun dipped low in the sky, Emma sat in her favorite coffee shop, scribbling ideas for her art studio on a napkin. She had been trying to focus on her dream, her art, but a part of her couldn't stop thinking about Liam. He had become a constant in her life, popping up in her thoughts at the strangest times. She had texted him a few times after the gala, and they had kept in touch, but it was clear that things were beginning to shift between them. There was a deeper connection forming, something neither of them had expected. As she looked out the window, she couldn't help but wonder how much of her life was about to change. Just then, her phone buzzed. It was a message from Liam. "Hey, I'm in your area. Would you like to grab dinner tonight?" Emma's heart skipped a beat. She smiled to herself before typing back, "Sure, that sounds great. What time?" A few moments later, he replied, "How about 7? I know a place you'll like." She paused for a second, her fingers hovering over the screen. "You always know the best places," she typed with a playful grin. She hit send, and then set the phone down, feeling the excitement build in her chest. Was this a date? Or was he just being friendly? She didn't know, but the thought of seeing him again made her heart race. By the time 7 o'clock rolled around, Emma had changed into a simple yet elegant dress, something that made her feel comfortable but also put together. She couldn't help but feel a little nervous as she adjusted her hair in the mirror. This wasn't just dinner with a friend anymore. Things were definitely different now. She had been spending more time with Liam, and their conversations had grown deeper, more personal. He had started to open up to her about his past, his struggles, and the loneliness that often came with being in his position. Emma had shared her own fears and aspirations too, but something about Liam's vulnerability made her feel more connected to him than ever. When Emma arrived at the restaurant, a cozy bistro nestled in the heart of the city, she saw Liam waiting outside, leaning against the doorframe. His dark jacket contrasted with the warm glow of the streetlights, and as soon as he saw her, he straightened up and smiled. "You look beautiful," he said, his voice soft and sincere. Emma's cheeks flushed, and she smiled shyly. "Thank you. You're not too bad yourself." He chuckled, and for a moment, they just stood there, smiling at each other like two people who had known each other for years, yet were still just beginning to understand the depth of their connection. They entered the restaurant, and as Liam led her to their table, Emma couldn't help but notice how effortlessly he moved through the room. It was as if he owned the place. But despite all the attention he seemed to attract, he focused entirely on her. He pulled out her chair with a quiet grace, and as they sat down, he took her hand across the table. "How's the art coming along?" he asked, genuinely interested. Emma leaned back in her chair, feeling her nerves start to settle. "It's coming along slowly, but I'm finally starting to feel like I'm on the right path. It's just, sometimes I wonder if I'm good enough to make it." She looked down at her hands, feeling a wave of self-doubt wash over her. But Liam's touch on her hand grounded her. "You are more than good enough, Emma," Liam said, his voice steady and sure. "You have something special inside of you. Don't let anyone, or anything, make you doubt that." His words were like a balm to her soul, and for the first time, she truly believed them. She didn't know if it was the warmth in his eyes or the sincerity in his voice, but in that moment, she realized something profound. He wasn't just the successful she had first thought he was. He was someone who genuinely cared, who wanted to help her find her path. They spent the evening talking, laughing, and sharing pieces of their lives. It felt easy, natural, and more intimate than anything either of them had experienced before. As the night came to a close and they walked out of the restaurant together, Liam offered her his arm, and Emma took it, her heart beating faster than before. It wasn't just the excitement of being with him. It was the realization that there was something real growing between them. As they walked along the quiet streets, Liam stopped and turned to her, his expression more serious now. "Emma," he said softly, "I know things have moved fast, and I don't want to rush you, but I can't ignore what I'm feeling. I want to be with you." His words hung in the air, and Emma felt her breath catch in her throat. She had been waiting for this moment, but hearing it out loud made her feel vulnerable in a way she hadn't expected. She looked into his eyes, searching for any sign of doubt, but there was none. "I want that too," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. And just like that, the uncertainty of the past few days melted away. They had taken a chance on each other, and now, it felt like the beginning of something beautiful. Let's see where this journey takes them. The weeks that followed felt like a whirlwind for Emma. As her relationship with Liam deepened, she found herself embracing a life she had once thought was out of reach. They spent more time together, going on spontaneous outings, visiting art galleries, and attending charity events. Emma could hardly believe how quickly things had changed. She had started out as a nervous waitress, unsure of where her life was going, and now she was walking through the city with a man who made her feel like she mattered, like she could achieve anything. Yet, despite everything that had happened, there were moments when doubt crept in. Could this really be real? Could someone like her, someone who had always struggled to make ends meet, truly belong in a world so different from her own? One evening, as they sat on the rooftop of Liam's apartment building, overlooking the city lights, Emma felt the familiar knot of uncertainty in her stomach. She had been doing her best to stay positive, to keep up with the life Liam had introduced her to, but the fear of not being enough was always there, lingering just beneath the surface. Liam, sensing her unease, reached over and took her hand. "You're thinking too much again," he said with a soft smile, his thumb brushing over her knuckles. "I can see it in your eyes." Emma looked at him, her heart racing. "I don't know how to explain it," she admitted. "Sometimes, I feel like I'm pretending, like I don't belong in this world with you." Liam's expression softened, and he leaned closer. "Emma, you're not pretending. You belong here. You belong with me." His words hit her like a wave of warmth, and for the first time, she allowed herself to believe them. It wasn't just the wealth or the glamour that had drawn her in. It was Liam, the man who had shown her kindness and patience when she least expected it. The man who made her feel seen, heard, and valued. Still, Emma struggled to fully embrace the idea of a future with him. The nagging feeling that she didn't deserve this, that she wasn't good enough, lingered in the back of her mind. But Liam's presence was a constant source of comfort, and over time, she realized that he wasn't asking her to be perfect. He was simply asking her to be herself. And with him, that felt like enough. One evening, Liam invited her to a quiet dinner at his apartment. It was just the two of them, away from the public eye, and as they ate, the conversation turned more serious. "I've been thinking a lot lately," Liam began, his voice thoughtful. "About us. About what we want moving forward." Emma's heart skipped a beat. She had been afraid of this conversation, the one where they had to define what they were. Was it just a fling? Or was it something more? "What are you thinking?" she asked softly, her fingers curling around her glass of wine. Liam set down his fork and looked at her with a steady gaze. "I don't want this to be just a passing thing," he said. "I care about you, Emma. I care about you in a way I haven't cared about anyone in a long time. And I want us to see where this can go." His words hung in the air, and Emma felt a surge of emotion wash over her. She had never allowed herself to believe that she deserved love like this. Real, unconditional love. But hearing him say it so plainly, so sincerely, made something in her shift. For a moment, there was silence between them, a moment of vulnerability. Emma took a deep breath and finally spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. "I want that too," she said, her words full of longing. "I've never felt like this before. I don't know what the future holds, but I want to take that step with you." Liam smiled, his eyes softening as he reached out to touch her hand. "You don't have to have it all figured out right now," he said. "We'll take it one step at a time, together." Emma nodded, a sense of peace settling over her. For the first time in a long while, she felt like she was exactly where she was supposed to be. The fear, the doubt, it was still there, but it no longer controlled her. She was learning to let go of the insecurities that had held her back for so long. As the evening wore on, They talked about everything and nothing, about their dreams, their pasts, and what they wanted from the future. Emma couldn't help but feel like she was finally starting to see herself through Liam's eyes, not as someone who didn't belong, but as someone worthy of love and success. She was beginning to understand that the life she had always imagined was not out of reach. With Liam by her side, maybe, just maybe, it was within her grasp. When the evening ended, Liam walked her to the door, his hand gently resting on the small of her back. "I'm glad you're in my life, Emma," he said, his voice low and sincere. "I'm really glad." Emma smiled, her heart full. "I'm glad too," she whispered. And in that moment, she realized that this was only the beginning. No matter what the future held, she was no longer afraid to take the next step. Let's see where this journey takes them. Over the next few weeks, Emma and Liam's relationship continued to grow. They spent more time together, learning about each other's pasts, dreams, and fears. It was easy, in a way, but not without its challenges. Emma found herself opening up more than she ever had before, sharing things about her childhood and the struggles she had faced. She could feel the walls she had spent so many years building up slowly coming down, piece by piece. Liam listened intently, never interrupting, never judging. His patience and understanding were things she hadn't known she needed, but now she couldn't imagine her life without them. But just as things were starting to feel like they were falling into place, a cloud of uncertainty settled over Emma. She had been working hard on her art, but the fear that it wasn't enough, that she wasn't enough, still haunted her. She often caught herself comparing her progress to others, wondering if she was truly capable of achieving her dream of opening an art studio. Despite everything Liam had said to her, despite his support, there was a voice in the back of her mind telling her that she wasn't good enough to make it. It was the same voice that had always been there, the one that told her she was just a small-town girl with big dreams, but no real chance of success. One evening, as they sat on the couch in Liam's apartment, Emma couldn't hold it in any longer. "Liam, I don't know if I can do this," she said, her voice tight with frustration. "I keep trying, but it feels like I'm just spinning my wheels. I don't think I'm good enough to make it." Liam looked at her, his expression calm, but there was a softness in his eyes that made her heart ache. He took her hand gently, his thumb tracing small circles over her palm. "Emma," he said, his voice steady and reassuring. "You are more than good enough. You've always been good enough. You're just getting started, and it's okay to have doubts. But don't let those doubts control you. I believe in you, and I'm not the only one." His words washed over her, and for a moment, she felt a glimmer of hope. She wanted to believe him. She wanted to believe that she could do it. But as much as she appreciated his support, Emma couldn't shake the feeling that she was holding him back. She wasn't living up to the potential he saw in her, and the guilt of not being enough weighed heavily on her heart. She had always been independent, always relied on herself to get by. But now, with Liam in her life, she wondered if she was asking too much of him. She didn't want to be the person who dragged him down with her insecurities. "I don't want to hold you back, Liam," she said quietly, looking away, not wanting him to see the vulnerability in her eyes. "You have so much going for you, and I don't want to be the reason you can't move forward." Liam's grip on her hand tightened, and he gently turned her face toward him. "Emma, you are not holding me back. You are the one thing in my life that feels real. You give me something that I didn't even know I was missing. And I'm here for you, no matter what. We're in this together." For a long moment, Emma just looked at him, searching his eyes for any hint of doubt. But all she saw was sincerity, a sincerity that made her heart swell with emotion. She had never had someone believe in her the way he did. She had never had someone tell her that she wasn't alone, that she didn't have to carry the weight of the world by herself. And for the first time, Emma allowed herself to believe it. She wasn't alone. She didn't have to carry her dreams or her fears alone. That night, as they lay side by side, Emma felt a sense of peace she hadn't known in years. She still had a long way to go, but for the first time, she wasn't afraid of the future. She had Liam by her side, and that made all the difference. Maybe, just maybe, she was ready to take the next step. Let's see where this journey takes them. Over the next few weeks, Emma found herself settling into a new routine, one that involved both her growing relationship with Liam and her continued pursuit of her art. She was still wrestling with her insecurities, but little by little, she was learning to trust in the support Liam offered. He never pressured her to be anything other than herself. In fact, he often encouraged her to embrace her passion for art, even when she doubted her abilities. She could see how much he believed in her, and that belief began to slowly chip away at the self-doubt that had held her back for so long. One afternoon, as they sat in Liam's favorite park, surrounded by the sounds of the city and the rustling of leaves, Emma took a deep breath, looking out at the horizon. Liam had just finished telling her about a business deal he was working on, but her mind was elsewhere. "You've been quiet today," he said, noticing her distant gaze. Emma turned to him, her heart pounding slightly. "I've been thinking," she began, her voice tentative, "about my art. About the studio. I've been working so hard, but I feel like I'm not getting anywhere. And I can't help but wonder if I'm just fooling myself." She looked down at her hands, her fingers fidgeting with the strap of her purse. Liam watched her carefully, his expression gentle. "You're not fooling yourself, Emma. You've got a vision, and I've seen it. You just have to trust yourself more. You're capable of so much more than you realize." She shook her head, still unsure. "But what if I'm not good enough? What if I fail? I've always been afraid of failing. It's like, no matter how hard I try, it's never enough." Her voice wavered as the weight of her fears pressed down on her. She wasn't sure why, but opening up to Liam about this felt different. It wasn't just a casual conversation. It was a moment of vulnerability she hadn't shared with anyone before. Liam reached over and took her hand, his touch steady and reassuring. "Emma, I know what it's like to be afraid of failure, but you've already come so far. You've made progress, and that matters. And you know what? I'll be here every step of the way. You don't have to face this alone." His words were so simple, yet they meant more to her than she could express. She had never had someone who believed in her this much, who was willing to support her without hesitation. Her eyes softened as she looked at him, the words he spoke resonating deep within her. "You really believe in me, don't you?" she asked softly, almost as if she was testing him. Liam gave her a small, knowing smile. "I do," he said, his voice low and steady. "I believe in you, Emma. And I believe in what you're capable of. It's okay to be scared, but don't let that stop you from going after what you want. You have everything it takes to succeed. You just need to trust yourself and take that first step." For a moment, Emma just sat there, letting his words sink in. The fear she had carried for so long still lingered, but it wasn't as heavy as it had been before. With Liam's unwavering belief in her, she felt a spark of hope, a spark that maybe, just maybe, she could do this. Later that evening, as they walked back to Liam's apartment, Emma felt a renewed sense of purpose. She knew she wasn't perfect, and she knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy, but for the first time, she felt ready to face whatever challenges lay in front of her. She wasn't alone anymore. And with Liam's support, she knew she could make her dream of opening an art studio a reality. That night, as they sat together on his couch, Liam turned to her with a thoughtful expression. "I've been thinking," he said. "There's a gallery opening next month. It's a big deal, and I think it would be a great opportunity for you to showcase some of your work." Emma's eyes widened. "A gallery opening? You think my work is ready for that?" Her heart skipped a beat at the idea. The thought of her art being displayed in a gallery seemed like an impossible dream. Liam nodded, his gaze steady. "I know you're ready, and I think this could be the perfect moment for you to step into the spotlight." Emma didn't know what to say at first. She was overwhelmed, excited, and terrified all at once. But as she looked at Liam, she realized that this wasn't just an opportunity. It was a chance to finally take the leap, to believe in herself the way he believed in her. And with him by her side, she knew she could do it. The next day, Emma began preparing for the gallery opening. It wasn't going to be easy, but she was determined. For the first time in a long time, she felt like her dream was within reach. And she wasn't going to let fear hold her back. With Liam's support and her own growing confidence, she was ready to take the next step. Let's see where this journey takes them. The day of the gallery opening arrived faster than Emma had anticipated. Her heart raced as she stood in front of the mirror, adjusting the strap of her dress. She had worked so hard on her pieces, poured her heart and soul into each one. But now that the moment was finally here, self-doubt crept in. What if no one liked her art? What if she wasn't ready for this after all? The familiar voice in her head, the one that had told her she wasn't good enough for so long, tried to take hold. But this time, she didn't let it. She had come too far, and Liam's encouragement echoed in her mind. "You belong here," he had said. And for the first time, she believed it. When she arrived at the gallery, the space was buzzing with activity. Guests mingled, admiring the artwork, their voices a low hum in the background. Emma's heart pounded as she stepped inside, taking in the sight of her pieces displayed proudly on the walls. It was surreal. Just months ago, this had seemed like an impossible dream, and now, here she was, standing in the middle of a gallery, surrounded by her own work. The realization hit her like a wave, and for a moment, she could hardly believe it was real. "You did it," a voice said from behind her, and she turned to find Liam standing there, his smile warm and proud. He had been with her every step of the way, and now, seeing the look on his face, Emma felt a rush of emotion. He had believed in her when she hadn't been able to believe in herself. "I couldn't have done it without you," she replied, her voice thick with gratitude. Liam reached out, gently taking her hand. "This is all you, Emma. You did the work. You made this happen." As the night went on, Emma mingled with guests, talking about her pieces and the stories behind them. Each conversation left her feeling more confident, more sure of herself. She could see the genuine interest in people's eyes, and it made her heart swell with pride. For the first time, she didn't feel like an imposter in this world. She belonged here. Later in the evening, as the event started to wind down, Liam pulled her aside to the quiet corner of the gallery. He looked at her with a serious expression, but there was something in his eyes that made her heart skip a beat. "Emma," he said softly, "I know we've both been taking things one step at a time, but I need to tell you something. I've fallen for you. I've fallen for you in a way I've never fallen for anyone before." Emma's breath caught in her throat. She hadn't expected this moment, but the sincerity in his voice, the way his eyes were fixed on hers, made her heart race. She had felt it too, the way their connection had deepened over the past months, the way he had become such an important part of her life. She looked at him, her heart full of emotion, and without thinking, she replied, "I've fallen for you too." The words felt right, like they had always been there, waiting for the perfect moment to be said. Liam smiled, and without another word, he gently cupped her face in his hands, bringing her lips to his. The kiss was slow and tender, a promise of everything that had come before and everything that was yet to come. In that moment, Emma realized that she wasn't just living in the dream she had worked so hard for. She was also beginning to live in a love she never thought possible. As they pulled away, Liam rested his forehead against hers. "I've never been more certain of anything in my life," he whispered. "We're just getting started, Emma. Together." The words lingered in the air between them, and Emma felt a sense of peace she had never known before. With Liam by her side, she knew that anything was possible. The journey ahead would have its challenges, but now, she was ready to face them, knowing that she wasn't alone. As the night came to a close, they walked out of the gallery hand in hand, the city lights twinkling around them like a reflection of the hope and love they had found in each other. The future was uncertain, but for the first time, Emma was no longer afraid. She had found her place, not just in the world of art, but in the life she had always dreamed of. Let's see where this journey takes them.